Yeah, hi there. This is DX Snipe, music producer, sound engineer with Microsoft Studios and tutor at SoundCraft Academy. So today I would like to show you my approach to mixing backup vocals for contemporary music. I've been getting a lot of requests from my friends on how I do this and how I mix backup vocals for contemporary music to get that choir or choral sound. So now, first of all, before I even show you anything, I want to say that this is just a guide, like a guide. There's no fixed rule to how you mix your backup vocals. It's whatever approach that gets you the results. I think that's the most important thing here. So this song you're about to listen to is titled Giving Praise by my friend Ebahi, wonderful chorister and singer, worship leader at HCC, Harvest House Christian Center. So take a listen. I'll be skipping to the chorus section where all the backups come in so we can listen. This is almost a 60 track project, quite a busy one. So hope you like this section.
Come on, open your hearts and let the worship flow out of you. Lift up his name in adoration. He is magnificent. He's holy. And he's awesome. Oh, come magnify the Lord with me. Exalt his name together. Let us bow down before him. Because he alone deserves the worship. He alone deserves the honor. He's the bread of heaven. He's the Lamb of God. He's the
Okay, so that sounded really good to me. So first things first, I'm using a stereo wave file for the soundtrack, so this project's not going to be too heavy. Normally I'd split all the instruments and work with the vocals at the same time. That's normally my work process. So now, first things first, how do you deal with backing vocals for you to get choral sound? My opinion, I think the first thing to note is the voice textures. The kind of voices you're using for your backups. For example, I think I noticed over time that for you to easily get that choral feel, you need at least 3 ladies and 3 guys to get that full sound. Now, the second thing, that's in terms of number. The second thing is voice texture. Now, it's going to be really difficult to get a choral or choir sound or choir feel if, let's say, for example, the ladies, their voice textures are really close to each other. Because in the mix, somebody's voice is going to get lost. Somebody's voice is going to overshadow the other person's voice. But if you have a slightly different character and texture, if somebody's voice is soft, if somebody else's voice is slightly harder or more aggressive, it's easier to work with vocals like that. So that's one thing for you to also note. Because, for example, in this project, we started with 6 vocals. We started with 6 backup vocalists, and I had to cut them down to 1, 2, 3, 4. To 4, 2 ladies and 2 guys. So now let me show you the next thing. So the first thing is getting the voice texture right, 1. And the second thing for me, I think, is the magic of everything, getting your panning right. Those are the 2 things I'm just going to talk about in this tutorial. Getting the voice texture right and getting the panning for the backup vocals right. If you get the panning right, even without any effects, any processing, you're going to like what you hear. So let me strip this down. Let's go back to just the backup vocals. Let me solo just the backup vocals. Let me jump somewhere in the mix and let's listen.
Bread of heaven, Lamb of God, Emmanuel divine.
Okay, so now you can hear all the backup vocals with the reverb on it. So now let me knock off the reverberation. Let me knock out the reverb so we can hear what it sounds like. So let's take a listen now. No reverb.
Emmanuel divine. Bread of heaven, Lamb of God, Emmanuel divine. Bread of heaven, Lamb of.
So you can hear, one thing you notice right now is that you can hear all the voices and you have a very strong harmony build. So what did I do? First things first, again, let me show you what's happening here. We have 4 backup vocalists, 2 guys and 2 ladies. The first guy is taking 2 parts. Let's listen.
Bread of heaven, Lamb of God.
Okay, let's take a listen again. Let's take a listen again.
Emmanuel divine.
So the first person is taking like 2 parts, mainly the baritone parts and the low octave parts, the part with most of the bass. The second guy is taking, let's see. So let's take out the first guy and listen to the second guy. The second guy is also taking 2 key parts. He's taking a low part. Sorry, taking a low part here. And the high octave. But you notice his voice is not really strong on the low end, unlike the other guy. So if you play the 2 guys together. You notice that the first guy is suppressing this second guy in the mix, but that's just because we're using the 2 voices to create a texture. It doesn't necessarily mean, okay, the 2 voices doesn't necessarily have to be at the same level. As long as you can create a texture of a male vocal, that should give you the results you want. Because sometimes you used to make the mistake of thinking, no, everybody should be at the same level. No, it's not about in terms of levels, it's about the overall sound, overall choral sound at the end of the day, you get at the end of the day. So, because in the mix, this sounds balanced. Outside the mix, listening to the 2 male vocals in solo like this, it's sounding like one is suppressing the other, but that's not the point. It's how your vocals sound in the mix that's important.
Lamb of God.
So we'll still come back to talk about the panning. So let's go to the 2 female backups there. So let's go. We have 2 female backups here. The lady first. She also doing 2 parts.
Glorified bread of heaven, Lamb of God.
And the second lady is also doing 2 parts.
Bread of heaven.
So the first thing you note before I continue is this. The first lady has a soft voice. And the second lady has a stronger voice. It's sharper, it's almost harsh, but it's 2 different textures and they work really well together.
Lamb
And if I bring all the voices back together, we have So the second thing that's making the vocals come out very well, other than the little processing I've done on the vocals, is the panning. How I pan the vocals. So let's take that one by one. So now, the thing about panning there is you're getting vocals out of each other's way. They are not landing on top of themselves. Like, let's say, for example, you pan the tenor guys left 50, right 50, and you're panning the lady also, let's say the soprano singer, left 50, right 50. Depending on which voice is stronger and which is on a louder volume, one would definitely suppress the other, except the two voice textures are completely different. Most times they tend to suppress each other. So what I try to do is I try to get everybody out of each other person's way by panning them. So another tip while I'm talking about panning is I always double track my backup vocals. I never double. Like if you see the file name audio 1002, audio 1103, I double track them. I track them twice. I don't track one vocal, record one vocal, and now duplicate, because that's just two similar mono signals. You're just going to get something louder. You're not going to get two different textures, because no one can sing the same thing, same line, same lyric exactly the same way twice. It's going to sound different. There's going to be different tonalities to it. So when you so just try it out. When you a section of your song, just record it twice. Now layer them like this and pan. So for this first vocalist now, for the male vocalist, I panned him. You can see here 70. The pair here, I panned them left, right 70, followed by 90. So you can see I went 70. The second part is sang, I panned 90, and the third part, I panned 60. So this is 70, this is 90, this is 60. So I take a mental note of that, or sometimes I write it down somewhere and I try something different. So the next person is a female backup, and she's also doing 90, and I'm doing 90 at this particular part because let's check it out. This tenor guy is doing 90 on. Let's find his 90. Yeah, his 90 is here. And she's doing 90 here. Now let's listen to them together. Now, the reason why I was able to pan them to the same spot is because she was singing in a higher octave, so her voice was really coming out sharper, and he was singing in a lower octave. See how his voice was more bassy and in the back. So just placing two together, even in the same spot, the vocals can clash because the textures are completely different. So that's one way to know when you can put when you're while panning, when you can put vocals in the same space and when you shouldn't put them in the same space. Remember, there's no rule to this. You can try other methods out, whatever works. So the next thing for the female vocal, I did 90, then I did 85. The reason why I did 90 and 85 was I didn't want these vocals to be too far from each other. So then remember that we did 70, 90, and 60 here. I wanted to create a scenario where, if you picture a choir on stage, they're all spread out and in front of each other. So let's assume I'm using my panning to spread them out left and right. I'm going to later use my reverb to give them depth, to push some people back, or to create that sense of 3D space. So let me continue here. So she does 90 and 85, and the other part she does here is completely on L and R, means 100%. She's going 100% there, those parts. So 85 and 90. Then the second female backup is doing 80. Now you notice I didn't push her to 90. She's on 80 and she's on 70. So this first female backup is doing 90 and 85 on the pan, while she's doing 80 and 70. Remember, the male vocal here is also doing 70 here. So it's the same rule. Why am I putting her to 70 when someone is already on 70? Let me show you again, like I was saying. Let's take this out. Let's play them together. Let me play that again. It's the same rule. If two voices in the same space are going to sit well together, the textures of the voices need to be really different from each other. If someone is singing with a high pitch and someone is singing with low pitch, they can still occupy the same space without clashing or without being suppressed. So then we have, okay, the third part she did later on was also extreme left and right. And at this point, because there's a build up in the song, and I'll explain that much later. Let me just touch on the last guy. The second tenor guy is doing 85 and 65. So just by looking at the way I panned everything, you notice that I'm, as much as possible, I'm not slamming everybody. Like when I get a lot of mixed projects, I see people panning all the backup vocals to 50 or to 60 or to 80. Every vocal in the same space. Panning every vocal in the same space. This most times creates a build up in your midsection and doesn't give clarity to your mix. So just by doing this without any reverberation, if you listen, you'll discover that what is giving my mix clarity right now, and what is giving the backup vocals clarity right now, is the fact that I pan them well. Bread of heaven, Lamb of God, Emmanuel divine. Bread of heaven. So, and once you get your panning right, the reverb just shows. The reverb just brings everything out. Every good bit of your panning brings it out. You can listen. Bread of heaven, Lamb of God, Emmanuel divine. So on the last bit, someone was asking me, so how do you measure the amount of reverb you put on a backup vocal? Okay, well, the trick is when you start hearing the reverb in your mix, definitely it's getting too much. So let's bring the soundtrack back in. So now I'm going to make my reverb excessive so we can all hear it, and you can also try and judge and see what works and what doesn't work well. So for this style, if the reverb is too much, you don't get clarity in your vocals. They sound far off, and when they sound far off, you tend to want to compensate with volume. You increase the volume, and with a lot of reverb on the vocals, you tend to start getting a lot of build up in your midsection. So what you need to do, in worst case scenario, is you can automate your reverberation. But the first things first is to find a level where the vocals sit well in the mix without sounding too echoey or reverby, and not, at the same time, they don't sound too dry. They don't sound too in your face. The whole purpose of putting reverb on the backup vocals for like a choral contemporary sound is to push the backup vocals back. Thereby, you're giving space to the lead vocalist to sit well in front of the mix. So that way, they're not at the same level. You're not hearing them all at the same level. As you can see, you can't hear anything at this point. But at this point, you can still hear the backup vocals. They're sounding really nice, sounding really full. But for creativity, what I'll do at this section where the peak of the song is, I could automate the reverb and push them back and pull them back in. Push them out and pull them back in. So let's wait for the bit where the drums fall out. So I hope this was helpful to someone out there. This is DX Knight signing out. Cheers.